Welcome to Billionaire's Desire, your home for the most irresistible billionaire romances. Tonight, you will hear the story of Sienna Hayes and Dominic Blackwell, a tale of a one-night encounter, a secret child, and a love that defies control. Sit back, relax, and let the emotions carry you. The ballroom glowed with golden light. Chandeliers dripped crystals from the high ceiling, the kind of opulence that reminded Sienna Hayes she didn't belong here. She tugged at her dress, simple compared to the diamonds and silk swirling around her. She had come as a favor to her boss, just one night, smiled politely, handed out a few business cards, and then disappeared. Her plan was clear: stay invisible, stay safe. But then he walked in. Dominic Blackwell. She'd read his name in business magazines, whispered in offices, envied by men and desired by women. Billionaire, CEO, a man who was said to control every room he stepped into. And she understood the moment her eyes landed on him. He wasn't just powerful, he was magnetic. Broad shoulders under a perfectly cut suit, a strong jaw that looked carved from stone, eyes the color of storm clouds, steady, unreadable, dangerous. People parted for him without him asking. Conversations hushed as if the room collectively knew their king had arrived. And then those grey eyes found her. Her stomach flipped. She hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, but he was walking toward her with the deliberate ease of a predator closing in on prey. Out of place? His voice was smooth, low, edged with amusement. Sienna blinked, forcing herself to breathe. Maybe, but then aren't we all? His lips curved just slightly, and it felt like winning a battle she hadn't realized she was fighting. Dominic studied her, gaze lingering as though she were a puzzle. You don't belong to this crowd. And you do. I own this crowd. The words should have irritated her, arrogance dripping from every syllable, but instead heat sparked low in her belly. What was wrong with her? Sienna told herself to walk away, to fade into the background like she always did. But something about him rooted her in place. Maybe it was the challenge in his tone, or the way he made her feel seen, truly seen, in a room full of glittering strangers. One drink turned into two. A shared laugh slipped between them like it had been waiting there all along. The gala blurred, the noise fading, until it was just them, trading barbed words and secret smiles. And when his hand brushed hers, lightly, almost accidental, her body reacted like it had been waiting for that single touch her whole life. Later, in the quiet of his penthouse, the city spread like diamonds beneath the windows. She let herself forget. Forget rules. Forget reason. Forget that she was just Sienna Hayes, the girl who kept her head down and never took risks. With Dominic, there was no choice. His touch was both fire and anchor, steady yet consuming. His kiss was fierce, like a man used to control but undone by her. And in his arms, she felt alive, wanted, desired in a way that was terrifying and intoxicating all at once. Every whispered word, every shiver, every moment that night carved itself into her memory, deeper than she wanted to admit. She told herself it was just one night, just a mistake she would bury. But when morning came and she slipped out of his bed, something in her chest ached, an ache she refused to name. Weeks later, the sickness began. The fatigue, the whispers of change in her body, and then the test. Positive. Her world tilted. Sienna sat on her bathroom floor, staring at the little stick in her trembling hands. She was pregnant with Dominic Blackwell's child. Her heart pounded, terror and wonder colliding inside her. She had always been cautious, careful. She had built her life around control. But now, a single night with a man she couldn't forget had rewritten her entire future. Her hand drifted to her stomach, tears burning her eyes. Fear whispered that Dominic would never want her, or the baby. that he'd see her as a mistake. And yet, somewhere deep inside, hope stirred. I hoped that the man who had held her like she was the only thing in the world might not let her go so easily. Sienna hadn't slept in 2 days. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his face. Those piercing grey eyes, the curve of his mouth when he smiled, the weight of his touch. But more than that, she heard the doubts whispering through her mind. He'll hate you. He'll think you trapped him. He'll throw you away. And yet another voice fought back, quieter but steady. He deserves to know. This isn't just your secret anymore. She sat in her tiny apartment, staring at the pale morning light seeping through the curtains. Her hand rested unconsciously on her stomach. It was still early, but she already felt the change within her, like a hidden rhythm beating alongside her own heart. Her phone lay on the table. She could call him. She could end the torture of waiting. But how do you tell a man like Dominic Blackwell, a man who seemed untouchable, who ruled his world with flawless control, that you're carrying his child? Her breath trembled. She wasn't afraid of raising the baby. She was afraid of him, afraid of what he'd say, afraid that he'd look at her like she was nothing more than a mistake. But the decision pressed harder every day. She couldn't run forever. Dominic's office tower gleamed like steel and glass, cutting into the skyline with arrogant certainty. Sienna stood outside the revolving doors, her palms sweating, her heart thundering so hard she thought she might faint. When she finally stepped inside, the lobby swallowed her. Cool marble floors, perfectly dressed assistants moving briskly, whispering into earpieces. Every inch of the place screamed power. His power. By the time she reached his office, she could barely breathe. The secretary's eyes swept over her, assessing. "Do you have an appointment?" Sienna swallowed hard. Tell him Sienna Hayes is here. He'll want to see me." The woman raised a perfectly arched brow, but picked up the phone anyway. A moment later, she gestured toward the tall doors at the end of the hall. "Go in." Sienna's legs carried her forward on instinct, though every step felt heavier. The doors swung open, and there he was. Dominic sat behind a massive desk, suit jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up. He looked up from the papers in front of him, and the moment his gaze collided with hers, the air shifted. Something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, memory, heat. But his expression quickly sharpened. "Sienna!" Her name rolled off his tongue like a challenge. "I didn't expect to see you again." Her throat tightened. The room suddenly felt too small, the air too thin. I need to talk to you." Her voice trembled. Dominic leaned back, studying her with that unreadable intensity. "Then talk." She gripped the strap of her bag until her knuckles whitened. "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed was deafening. For a heartbeat, Dominic didn't move. His eyes hardened, his jaw clenched. But beneath the storm, she saw something else flicker. Shock, disbelief, something raw. "You're pregnant?" His voice was low, measured, dangerous. "Yes." Her own voice cracked. "It's yours." The tension stretched like a wire ready to snap. Dominic rose from his chair slowly, every movement precise, controlled. But his eyes betrayed him. They blazed, filled with emotions she couldn't read. He circled the desk, stopping only inches from her. His presence wrapped around her like a cage, heat radiating from his body. "You came here, after months, to tell me this." Sienna's chest tightened. "I didn't know how to—" "You should have told me the second you knew." His voice thundered, sharp as steel. But beneath it, his hand trembled slightly, a crack in his control. Tears burned her eyes. "I was afraid you'd hate me, afraid you'd say it was a mistake." His jaw worked, his eyes burning into hers. "Do you really think so little of me?" Her breath hitched. I don't know what to think. You're Dominic Blackwell. You don't need this. For the first time, something broke through his mask of control. Pain, vulnerability, a glimpse of a man beneath the power. You think I'd walk away from my child? From you? His voice softened, rough around the edges. Sienna's heart stuttered. Her fear warred with the truth glowing in his eyes, possessive, protective, fierce. And then, almost too quietly, he whispered, "You've just changed everything." Sienna's heart still pounded from the confrontation, her pulse thrumming like wild wings in her chest. She had expected rage, rejection, maybe even mockery, but not this. Not the way Dominic's eyes burned, as if the world had shifted beneath his feet. He hadn't let her leave. "You're not walking out of here like this never happened," he had said, his tone final, brooking no argument. Now she stood in the corner of his office, hands trembling as he paced like a caged predator. His tie hung loose, his shirt sleeves rolled to the elbows, veins visible in his forearms. Power radiated off him in waves, but so did something else, something raw, unsettled. "You should have told me sooner." His voice was clipped, but lower now, almost controlled. "You let me go on without knowing I had a child coming into this world." "I was scared," Sienna whispered, hugging her arms around herself. You don't live in my world. I thought you'd tell me to disappear." Dominic stopped pacing. He turned slowly, his eyes dark and unreadable, and for a moment Sienna thought he might explode again. Instead, he exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "God, Sienna, do you have any idea how it feels, knowing you kept this from me? Knowing I could have lost the chance to be there?" His voice cracked with something unfamiliar. Vulnerability. Sienna blinked at him, stunned. She had braced for anger, but this was worse. It stripped her of the defenses she had built. "I didn't want to trap you," she said quietly. "I didn't want you to think I was using the baby to—" His eyes sharpened, flashing like steel. He stepped closer, closing the space between them. "Don't you dare think I'd ever see my child as a trap." The intensity in his voice made her chest ache. Her breath caught as he leaned in, his presence overwhelming. His hand almost touched her arm, almost, but at the last second he pulled back, fists clenching at his sides. He was fighting himself, and she was fighting not to fall back into his orbit. The following days blurred into a whirlwind. Dominic insisted on taking her to appointments, assigning his driver to pick her up, sending groceries to her apartment without asking. Every action screamed control, but beneath it she saw the truth. His protectiveness, his need to keep her safe. It infuriated her. It softened her. At night, she lay awake, replaying every look, every half-smile, every moment when his hand brushed hers as though it couldn't help itself. Her heart betrayed her. She told herself it was just for the baby, but every time she saw him, her chest tightened in ways that had nothing to do with fear. The threats began quietly. An anonymous email slipped into her inbox. "You don't belong with him. Stay away before you ruin him." Sienna's blood ran cold. She deleted it, trying to convince herself it was nothing, but unease gnawed at her. Meanwhile, Dominic grew more distant at the office. His company faced an aggressive takeover attempt. Rumors whispered of a rival hungry for his empire. He dismissed it with his usual confidence, but Sienna saw the flicker in his eyes when he thought no one was looking. He was in control, always, but cracks were showing. And then Bianca. Sienna first saw her at the coffee shop across from Dominic's tower. A striking woman with dark hair, crimson lips, and a look that could cut glass. She smiled at Sienna without warmth, her gaze sweeping her like a predator sizing up prey. "You must be Sienna," Bianca purred, sliding into the seat across from her without asking. "Dominic's charity project," the words stung. Sienna forced her chin up. "I'm not sure what you mean." "Oh, come now," He has a type, the doe-eyed innocent who thinks she's special. Bianca leaned closer, her perfume sharp. But trust me, Dominic always comes back to me. Sienna's heart clenched, doubt swirling like poison. Was this true? Was she just a mistake? A passing phase in Dominic Blackwell's carefully curated world? Before she could respond, Bianca's smile widened cruelly. Enjoy your little fantasy while it lasts. She left, heels clicking like gunfire, leaving Sienna shaken and burning with anger she couldn't quite contain. That night, Dominic came to see her. He found her pacing her living room, fury and insecurity written across her face. "What did she say to you?" His voice was sharp, knowing, protective. Sienna froze. "So you know she found me." His jaw clenched. "Bianca's been a thorn in my side for years. She doesn't matter." "She seems to think she does." Dominic stepped closer, frustration blazing. "Listen to me. She means nothing, but you—" He stopped himself, words hanging heavy in the air. Sienna searched his face, her chest aching. "Then what do I mean to you, Dominic? Tell me." His lips parted. For once, the man who always had the perfect answer hesitated, and in that hesitation, the truth pulsed between them. Dangerous, undeniable, unfinished. The silence between them was charged, unbearable. Dominic stood close enough that Sienna could feel the heat radiating from him, close enough that the scent of his cologne tangled with her unsteady breath. "You mean more than you realize," he finally said, his voice low, dangerous, like the words themselves had clawed their way out of him. Her heart skipped. Don't believe it. Don't trust it. Yet the rawness in his tone tore through her carefully built walls. "Dominic!" Her voice broke. Soft, vulnerable. He reached up as if to touch her face, his hand trembling in a way she had never seen before. This man, so in control, so untouchable, looked undone by her. But just as his fingertips grazed her cheek, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket. The moment shattered like glass. He cursed under his breath, glancing at the screen. His expression hardened instantly, walls slamming back into place. "I have to take this." Sienna stepped back, her throat tight. The ache in her chest was unbearable, a wound torn open by what might have been. Later that night, she found herself on his balcony, the city glittering beneath them like a sea of stars. Dominic joined her, his face grim from whatever war he was fighting behind the scenes. "Someone's making moves against me," he admitted quietly, staring out at the skyline. "It's not just business, it's personal. They're trying to break everything I've built." Sienna shivered, though the night air was warm. "And you think they'll use me against you?" His jaw flexed. "They already are, the threats, the whispers. Bianca showing up wasn't an accident. They want me distracted." "And are you?" she asked before she could stop herself. He turned, his eyes locking on hers. "You're not a distraction, Sienna. You're the only thing keeping me sane." The confession hit her like a storm, her pulse racing. She wanted to run. She wanted to stay. The tension between them finally snapped days later. He had driven her home after another doctor's appointment, insisting on carrying the bags up to her apartment despite her protests. When he set them down on the counter, the space between them shrank until every breath felt stolen. "Dominic!" Her whisper was a plea, though she wasn't sure if she was begging him to leave or to stay. His hand found her wrist, gentle but firm, his thumb tracing her pulse. "You make me lose control," he murmured, voice thick with desire and something deeper. Her breath caught as he leaned closer, their lips barely brushing. A sharp knock at the door froze them both. Sienna pulled back, heart racing. Dominic swore under his breath, moving protectively in front of her as he opened the door. On the threshold stood Bianca, arms crossed, smile sharp as a knife. "Hello, Dominic," she purred. "We need to talk." The next hours spiraled into chaos. Bianca revealed the rival company's schemes, but her motives were poison-laced, half-truths, manipulations, and constant digs at Sienna. "You think she's strong enough for your world?" Bianca sneered when Dominic refused to send Sienna away. "She's already drowning!" Sienna's chest burned with humiliation and fury, but before she could speak, Dominic snapped, his voice shaking the walls. "Enough! You don't get to decide who belongs in my life." The words silenced Bianca, but they rang louder in Sienna's ears. His life. Not just his world, not just his company, his life. Her heart soared, then plummeted with fear. Because if she let herself believe it, if she gave herself to him fully, rejection would destroy her. That night, when she finally found the courage to ask, her voice trembled. "Dominic, are you really sure about this? About me? About us?" He reached for her face again, his thumb brushing her cheek this time, no hesitation. "For the first time in my life, I'm not sure about anything except you." Sienna's lips parted, her breath mingling with his, the air between them electric. But before the kiss could claim them, his phone rang again, and this time, when he answered, his face turned pale. "Sienna," he said slowly, deadly calm, "they've made their move, and it involves you." The moment Dominic hung up the phone, the temperature in the room shifted. His jaw was tight, his eyes hard, but beneath the steel, there was something else. Fear. "Pack a bag," he ordered, his voice clipped. Sienna blinked, her pulse leaping. "What? Why?" "They know where you live," he said, already moving through her apartment with precision, scanning corners, checking locks, as though danger could step through the walls at any second. "I'm not risking it. You're coming with me." Her chest tightened. The protectiveness in his tone should have terrified her. Instead, it sent a rush of warmth spiraling through her veins. "He's afraid for me." But fear still gnawed at her. "Dominic, I can't just—" He turned on her, eyes blazing. "Do you trust me?" The question hung between them, raw, demanding. Her lips parted. She wanted to say no to keep her walls intact, but the truth slipped out, trembling, undeniable. "Yes." Relief flickered across his face for only a moment before he pulled her against him, his hand firm at her back. "Then let me protect you, Sienna, please." That night, in his penthouse, she couldn't sleep. The city stretched endlessly below, lights twinkling like 1,000 promises, but her heart was restless. Dominic stood by the window, shirt undone, tie hanging loose, his powerful frame tense with unspoken rage. "Who are they?" she asked softly from the bed. He didn't look at her. "A rival I should have destroyed years ago. Now he's found my weakness." Her throat tightened. "And that's me." Finally, he turned, his gaze burning into her. "You're not a weakness." He stalked closer, every step deliberate, every word sharp. "You're the only thing that makes me feel alive, and that terrifies me more than any threat." Her breath caught, tears stinging her eyes. The intensity in his voice shredded her defenses. She wanted to tell him everything, about the baby, about her fears, but the words stuck in her throat. When his hand brushed her cheek, she leaned into it despite herself. His touch was fire and comfort all at once. But before the moment could turn into more, a loud crash shattered the silence. Both of them froze. Dominic's eyes narrowed as he strode to the door, pulling it open to reveal one of his security men, blood at his temple. "They tried to force their way in," the man gasped. "We stopped them, but they're getting bold." Sienna's heart slammed against her ribs. Fear coiled in her stomach, sharp and cold. She'd never been this close to real danger before. Dominic turned back to her, his face a storm of fury and resolve. "You're not leaving my sight. Not now, not ever." His words were possessive, absolute. And instead of fighting them, Sienna found herself trembling with a dangerous mix of fear and longing. Hours later, when the chaos settled, Bianca appeared again, this time uninvited. "You can't protect her forever, Dominic," she hissed, her eyes cutting to Sienna. "She's not built for this life. She'll crack, and when she does, you'll lose everything." Sienna opened her mouth to snap back, but Dominic beat her to it, his voice low and lethal. "Get out, Bianca. If you so much as breathe near her again, you'll regret it." Bianca's lips curved in a bitter smile. "You're already regretting it, Dominic. I can see it in your eyes. She'll destroy you." The door slammed behind her, but her venom lingered, wrapping itself around Sienna's heart. Later, when Dominic finally sat beside her, exhaustion etched into his features, she whispered, "Why are you doing this for me?" His eyes locked on hers, stripped of all defenses. "Because somewhere between that night and this moment, I stopped caring about control and started caring about you." Her breath hitched, tears threatening again. She wanted to tell him the truth, about the child, about everything. But before she could speak, another phone call came. Dominic's face darkened as he listened, and when he ended the call, his voice was ice. "They've made their move again. This time it's worse, and it's going to change everything." The call still echoed in Dominic's ears when he grabbed his jacket and keys. "They've crossed the line," he said grimly. His voice was sharp, steady, but his hands trembled as he pulled Sienna toward the elevator. "Dominic, what's happening?" Her voice shook, but her steps matched his, her heart pounding with dread. "They threatened you directly. Not just whispers, not just shadows. They know your name, your face, and they won't stop until I stop them." Her stomach dropped. Fear clawed at her chest. But what terrified her most wasn't the rival's threat. It was the desperation in his eyes. For once, Dominic Blackwell looked shaken. That night, the safe house was silent, but the air was thick with tension. Dominic paced like a caged predator, every muscle taut, every breath sharp. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, watching him. "I'm dragging you down." His head snapped toward her, eyes blazing. Don't you dare think this is your fault." Her throat closed. He looked raw, unguarded, his usual iron control stripped away. "You don't understand, Sienna." His voice broke, low and rough. "I've built empires, crushed enemies, controlled everything in my path. But the thought of losing you—" He dragged a hand through his hair, breath unsteady. "That's the first thing I can't bear." Her heart ached, tears burning her eyes. "He means it. God, he means it." "Dominic." She stepped closer, her fingers trembling as she touched his arm. His eyes fell to her hand, then lifted to her face, burning with intensity. "Tell me I'm not the only one losing myself here. Tell me you feel it too." Her chest heaved. Every wall she had built to protect herself cracked under his gaze. "I do," she whispered. "I've tried not to, but I can't stop." The distance between them vanished. His mouth found hers in a kiss that was fierce, desperate, like a man drowning and finally finding air. Sienna melted into him, her fingers clutching at his shirt, her body trembling with need and fear all at once. Every stroke of his lips, every touch of his hands was fire and promise, breaking down the last of her resistance. When they finally broke apart, breathless, his forehead pressed against hers, his voice was a confession. "You're mine, Sienna, and I'll burn the world before I let anyone take you from me." Her heart soared and plummeted at the same time, because the secret inside her was clawing to come out. The next morning, the danger became real. A brick through the window, a message scrawled in red across the glass. "She doesn't belong." Sienna gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Dominic's roar of fury shook the room as his men scrambled to secure the perimeter. He pulled her into his arms, his chest rising and falling in ragged breaths. "They're coming for you, and I swear to God I'll kill them before I let them touch you." Sienna clung to him, heart hammering. Fear wrapped around her, but so did something else, trust, the kind she had never given anyone before. And with it came the crushing weight of the truth she hadn't told him. That night, as he sat beside her, exhaustion in his eyes but his arm firm around her shoulders, she whispered, "Dominic, there's something you don't know, something I should have told you from the start." His body went still, every muscle tightening. He turned, his gaze searching hers. "What is it?" Her lips trembled, her heart raced. Before she could speak, the door burst open. One of Dominic's men stumbled in, panic etched across his face. "They've taken someone close to her," he gasped. "They're using her as bait." Sienna's blood ran cold, and Dominic's grip on her hand tightened like steel. The safe house erupted in chaos the moment Dominic's man spoke. "Who?" Dominic barked, his voice sharp as a blade. The guard hesitated, then, "Her best friend, the one she called earlier. They grabbed her outside her apartment." Sienna's knees buckled. "No! Oh God, no!" Tears stung her eyes as her stomach twisted with guilt. Because of me, she's in danger." Dominic caught her before she fell, his arms a fortress around her trembling body. His voice was low, dark, deadly. "This ends tonight." He looked to his men, every inch the king of his empire, commanding without hesitation. "Find out where they're holding her, double the security, and get me the bastard who thinks he can use her against me." Hours later, Dominic's car sliced through the city, black and sleek, carrying him and Sienna toward the warehouse where her friend was being held. The silence inside was unbearable. Sienna's heart pounded, every mile heavier with fear. "You don't have to come," Dominic murmured, his hand gripping hers with unexpected gentleness. "I do," she whispered, voice shaking but firm. "She's in this because of me. I won't let her face it alone." He turned his gaze on her, and for a fleeting second, the ruthless billionaire was gone. In his place was a man torn between fury and fear, between power and love. "You're braver than you think, Sienna Hayes," he said softly. The warehouse loomed like a monster in the dark. Dominic moved first, his men falling into formation with military precision. His presence was commanding, his fury barely contained. Inside, the rival waited, a man with eyes like ice and a smile that dripped venom. "You've finally come down from your golden tower, Blackwell," the man sneered. "All for her." Sienna's breath hitched as her friend was shoved forward, bound and terrified. Dominic's hand shot out, steadying Sienna. His voice was calm, but his words were pure fire. "Let her go, and maybe I won't bury you alive." The rival laughed, circling like a vulture. "You've built empires, but this is where you fall. She'll be your ruin." The standoff exploded into chaos. Dominic's men surged forward, the crack of fists and shouts filling the air. Dominic himself was a storm, ruthless, relentless, his rage cutting through anyone who dared touch what was his. Sienna could only watch in terror and awe as he fought, not as a billionaire with endless resources, but as a man possessed, every strike fueled by love and desperation. When it was over, when the rival fled into the night and her friend was freed, Dominic pulled Sienna into his arms, holding her as if he'd never let go. "You're safe," he whispered against her hair, his voice raw. "As long as I'm breathing, you're safe." Her tears spilled freely now, soaking his shirt. "Dominic, The words tangled in her throat. She wanted to scream the truth, to tell him about the baby, about everything. But fear of rejection, of him seeing her as nothing more than a mistake, silenced her. Instead, she clung tighter, her body trembling with all the words she couldn't say. Later, as the car carried them back, Dominic's hand never left hers. "You should have told me," he murmured, his gaze fixed on the passing lights. "About your friend, about how much danger you were in." Don't shut me out, Sienna, not now. Her chest constricted. He didn't know the half of it. I promise, she whispered, voice breaking. I won't shut you out again. But in her heart, the secret clawed deeper, demanding to be revealed. As the city skyline came back into view, Dominic's phone buzzed again. He answered with a sharp, "What?" His face darkened instantly. "They're coming after us directly now," he said, hanging up. His grip on her hand tightened. "This isn't over, and it's going to get worse before it ends." Sienna's breath caught. Worse. And with that one word, she knew. She couldn't keep the secret much longer. The city blurred past the car windows, but Sienna couldn't shake the images from her mind. The rival's mocking grin, her friend's terrified eyes, Dominic's fist striking with ruthless precision. She should have been horrified. Instead, she was shaken by something even more dangerous. He had fought for her, killed for her, if it came to that. And that kind of devotion burned deeper than fear. Back at the penthouse, Dominic guided her inside with a hand firm at the small of her back. He didn't speak at first, just poured them both a glass of water, setting hers in front of her like it was an offering. Finally, he broke the silence. "You don't have to be afraid anymore." Her laugh was shaky, bitter. "How can I not be? They're not stopping, you saw it." His gaze locked onto hers, steady, unflinching. "Because I won't let them. Do you hear me, Sienna? As long as I breathe, nothing touches you, not in this city, not anywhere." The sheer conviction in his tone made her chest ache, but it also terrified her, because he was binding himself to her without knowing the truth. Later, as she tried to sleep, she heard him in the next room, his voice low, sharp, commanding, as he spoke to his men over the phone. "They won't get close again," he snapped. "I don't care what it costs. Triple the security. Shut down every leak. If anyone so much as looks at her wrong, I want them destroyed." The words should have made her feel safe. Instead, they made her realize just how much she meant to him now, and how devastating the truth could be. The next morning, Bianca arrived like poison in silk. "Still playing house with your charity case," she purred, striding into the penthouse as if she owned it. Dominic's jaw tightened. "Get out, Bianca." But Bianca wasn't here for Dominic. Her eyes cut straight to Sienna, cruel and gleaming. "You think he'll still want you when he knows the truth? Or are you planning to keep it hidden forever?" Sienna froze, her blood turning cold. "What truth?" Dominic's voice dropped to a deadly calm. Bianca's smile widened. "Ask her yourself. Or maybe I should." The air crackled with tension. Dominic turned to Sienna, his eyes searching, demanding. "Sienna," he said quietly, dangerously. "What is she talking about?" Her lips parted, her heart racing. Now just tell him." Her throat closed, fear strangling the words. She saw it, the possibility of rejection, of him looking at her not with love, but with betrayal. She stammered, trembling. Bianca's smirk deepened. "Exactly what I thought." Dominic snapped, his voice like a whip. "Out, now!" Bianca flinched at the force of it, but she left with a satisfied smile, the damage already done. When the door closed, the silence between them was unbearable. Dominic stepped closer, his eyes burning into her. "Sienna, whatever it is, you have to tell me. Don't let her poison us." Tears stung her eyes. She wanted to tell him. God, she wanted to. Her hand even drifted to her stomach, unconsciously, instinctively. But fear held her back. "I'm not ready," she whispered brokenly. He stared at her for a long, agonizing moment. Then, with a rough exhale, he pulled her into his arms, holding her as though he could protect her from herself. "Then I'll wait," he murmured into her hair. "But when you're ready, I'll be here. Nothing you say will make me stop wanting you." Her tears spilled, hot and relentless. "If only you knew." The morning air was thick with tension. Dominic's phone buzzed incessantly, messages and calls from his security team painting a chilling picture. The rival had mobilized, making direct moves to destabilize everything Dominic held dear. He slammed the phone down on his desk, fists clenching. They're coming for us, all of it, our life, our world, her safety, everything. Sienna flinched, her chest tight. And what can we do? Dominic's gaze locked onto hers, dark and commanding. We do what I've always done. We fight, and I'll burn every bridge, every empire, every rule they think controls me before I let them touch you. The possessiveness in his voice made her heart leap and ache. She'd never felt a man care like this, so utterly and fiercely. Hours later, the confrontation came. The warehouse where the rival had hidden critical documents and manipulated his board was under Dominic's command. His men moved like shadows around the perimeter, but Dominic was the storm in the center, calm, precise, and deadly. Sienna clutched his arm. "Be careful," she whispered. He bent down, his lips brushing her ear. "I don't need careful. I need you to trust me." Her stomach twisted. Fear and desire battled violently inside her. She wanted to tell him about the baby, about everything, but now wasn't the time, not with the danger so close. The rival appeared, smug and calculating, expecting Dominic to falter. But he didn't. Every step Dominic took radiated lethal precision. His hands moved like a master's, striking, restraining, commanding. No one touched Sienna. No one harmed anyone he loved. When the rival finally faced him, Dominic's voice was cold, dangerous, and final. "You should have stayed in the shadows. Now you'll learn the cost of touching what belongs to me." The rival smirked. "And what belongs to you, Blackwell?" Dominic's eyes flared. "Everything. And I don't share." The ensuing battle was swift, brutal, and meticulous. Dominic's brilliance in strategy and sheer force dismantled the rival's plan, leaving him defeated, humiliated, and powerless. Afterward, Sienna watched him, chest heaving from adrenaline, eyes blazing. "You," she began, voice trembling. "You were amazing." He turned to her, exhausted but unyielding, and for the first time his walls broke entirely. He pulled her close, hands gripping her shoulders. "Do you see now?" he asked, voice rough. "Do you see what I'll do for you?" Her lips trembled. She wanted to tell him everything. The baby, the fear, the secret she had held in silence. She took a deep breath. She could no longer hide it. "There's something I have to tell you. About the baby, about us." Dominic's eyes softened, shadowed with emotion, desire, and fear. "Then tell me, Sienna. Whatever it is, I'm here. I'll handle it. Before she could finish, a security alert flashed on the screen. Another breach. Someone had infiltrated her building. He cursed under his breath. "Not now!" And with that, he whisked her away again, his arms tight, possessive and protective, leaving her words unsaid, burning in the space between them. The city lights flickered beneath them as Dominic's car raced through the streets. Every muscle in his body was taut with urgency, every breath measured, every heartbeat synced to hers. Sienna's chest heaved, not just from fear, but from the secret that had been eating at her from the moment Dominic had saved her friend. She swallowed, hands trembling. "Dominic, I have to tell you something about the baby, about us." He didn't speak immediately. He didn't need to. His gaze locked on hers, unwavering, filled with a storm of emotions she could never fully describe. Anger, love, desire, protectiveness. "Now," he said softly, yet with steel underneath. "Everything." Her lips quivered. I didn't want to scare you. I had your child, and I was afraid you'd leave me if you knew." Time seemed to freeze. Dominic's hands cupped her face, his thumbs brushing her cheeks. His eyes searched hers as though he were memorizing every flicker of emotion. You… what? His voice cracked only slightly, betraying the intensity he tried to hold back. I'm pregnant, Dominic, with your child. The world seemed to shrink around them. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. Fear clung to her like a shadow. Then he smiled, a slow, dangerous, intoxicating smile that made her knees weak. You're mine, he whispered, voice low, almost reverent. Nothing, and I mean nothing, will ever change that. This child, our child, will only make what we have stronger. I don't care about the rest of the world, Sienna. You're my life. Tears streamed down her face as she wrapped her arms around him. He held her as though letting go was impossible, and perhaps it was. Hours later, Bianca appeared one last time, hoping for a final spark of chaos. This isn't over, Dominic, she hissed. You'll see. Dominic's glare silenced her. No, you've done enough. He stepped towards Sienna, placing a possessive hand on her back. And I will never let anyone threaten us again, ever. Bianca faltered under the intensity of his gaze and left, defeated, the last traces of her venom fading. Alone, Dominic cradled Sienna in his arms, kissing her forehead, her hair, every inch of her like he was marking her as his own. You're my heart, he murmured. Our child, our family, nothing will touch us, I promise you. Sienna's tears fell freely, but now mingled with relief and uncontainable joy. I was so afraid, but now I know, you love me. He smiled against her temple. More than anything, and nothing, no rival, no obstacle, will ever change that. The night stretched around them, filled with whispered promises, tender touches, and a love that had survived fire, lies, and fear. For the first time, Sienna believed in forever. If you loved this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Billionaire's desire for more heart-stopping billionaire romance audiobooks. Click the notification bell so you never miss a tale of love, power, and passion that will leave your heart racing.